everyone, and welcome to episode 8 of Part 2 Book Club. Can you imagine that we've done 8 whole episodes thus far? Today is a book review episode, which you'll all be very pleased to hear about. And of course, we are reviewing the highly controversial Say No to the Duke. So yeah, today is a book review. Thank you for joining us. Hi everyone, how are we? You're all looking very beautiful this evening / morning. I have a feeling this one is going to have a pretty tight consensus on the reviews, and there'll be no division whatsoever.
I don't know. There'll be one person divided.
Yeah. If anyone hasn't been following along with the reaction videos or any of the comments in the last couple of podcasts, this one definitely had us divided from the beginning. Sarah, I'm going to pass to you to just give us a 2-second download of, number one, how did we get from Bride, Vampires, Werewolves, Knots, to Say No to the Duke? How did that happen? And then if you could give us a bit of a 2-second synopsis on what it is.
I think it was a bit of a retaliatory move.
Yep, agreed.
I was a couple of books in to book club, and I put myself forward to be the fourth because I'm, not, well versed in the genre. And our sort of like head book reader, romance book reader, Sian, had stressed how much she didn't like Regency. And in other areas of, the arts, I love Regency, whether it's film, TV, or art. So I thought it would be, first of all, a little bit funny because I was struggling through this vampire werewolf novel. It was awful. And I thought, well, do you know what? Let's go do something that possibly, and I really did truly believe this could be more of a genre of, I've read a lot of the classics and I've really enjoyed them. I know they're not for everyone, but vampires and werewolves obviously aren't for everyone either. And so I was actually with Zara. She was over in England, and I said, let's go into the library with the kids because we had Mia, we had the little ones, and they have lots of little books and half-term activities, etc. And I said to Zara, where do I go? And she was like, romance. So we went, and we kind of had a bit of a giggle start, didn't we? Sort of like pulling out these funny book covers. There was a lot of dukes, a lot of lords. And anyway, it said New York Times best-selling author, Eloisa James, and it had this woman in the front looking quite cheeky and demure and with her hair all in her sort of like wiggy bits and, Say No to the Duke. And I didn't even read the back. I was like, that's the one. Because I know no more than that. So I put an absolute punt on us just having a bit of a laugh in the library and picked Say No to the Duke by Eloisa James. As it turns out, some people may like this book. It follows the story of Lady Boadicea, also known as Betsy, who is kind of what's the right word to describe her? She's sort of the diamond of the ton, she's having her first season. It's been a very successful season. If you watch things like Bridgerton, you might sort of get where I'm coming through from that she's turning down bachelor after bachelor. She's obviously very beautiful. But instead of wanting to go for the most eligible bachelor in town, which is Thaddeus, who is a little bit of a wet character, she sees the brooding, possibly alcoholic, PTSD laden Jeremy, who has returned from war, a bit of a troubled man. They strike up a friendship. They love a bit of billiards. They go on a few walks.
Made that sound like a book I'd want to read, and then luckily I know the truth.
Here we go, guys. I'm ready. I'm absolutely ready. Book is out.
All right. I might start with Alicia. What were your thoughts, Alicia? Number one, what was your thoughts when you originally saw the pic?
Okay, so when I saw the cover, I slightly died a little bit inside. Yes, exactly. Because it just looks like some 1970s shit novel that I just really didn't want to read. And the first couple of chapters, I thought, yep, as I thought, this is terribly boring. I actually did skip through a couple at the start because there were all these names, and there wasn't really anything happening. It was all the season stuff, which was, in my opinion, incredibly dull. And then it got to the point where I thought, oh, okay, so she's a bit rebellious, and she's met this guy who's also a little bit rebellious, and he's perving on them in the billiards room, her and the Duke. And I think it did get better. So halfway through, and then towards the end, I have to admit, I wasn't hating the book because some events did take place. Very predictable. The whole society wanting to go against society being a man, I mean, it's taking you back to Little Women and all the other people that wrote all those lovely novels before. So nothing like, I don't think she was setting out to set the world on fire with the book, let's be honest. But I didn't hate it. And there's a bit, I don't want to do a spoiler, I'm bad with the spoiler alerts. There's something else that happens with him in the war, and to be honest, that part of it was more interesting for me when we realised what had happened, and it wasn't, his cousin, without spoiling it, the cousin was involved. The cousin was some greasy guy that is introduced into the book, and he's there and he's a bit annoying, and it turns out that he was just, he was trying to throw Jeremy under the bus, so to speak. And I think that was the most exciting it kind of got. It's like sitting through a rom-com that was a bit shit, but actually at the end you're like, actually it's fine. It's like a Christmas rom-com, so worse than The Holiday. Sit through, you read it and go, yeah, it's all right. Would I recommend it? No, I don't think so. But definitely not from a romance. I don't think I'd recommend it from a romance perspective. There wasn't much heat, Sarah. That was kind of it. So that was my, in short, started off like a really terrible rom-com and then ended up as a, okay, it's okay. It was distinctly average, as they would say on Strictly.
Sounds like a 3.
I actually have predictions as to what everyone's going to score it. I won't say until after, but I said to Pete.
That's not a prediction. Write them down now.
Yeah.
Pete, no, because I don't want to.
Okay, if you write them down now, and then when we've done it, you can lift it up and say, this is like, yeah, if you write them down, what you think all 3 of us are going to score it, and then
the big reveal. That's me.
Who's next? Shani?
I can go next. So, as you know, not a fan of Regency. I'm not a fan of the classics either. So, nothing about this book made me want to read it. But I appreciate that you haven't wanted to read the other choices, but you did. So, I read it. I didn't skim. I read every word painstakingly. Yeah, I did send Zara a little video around 70 pages in because nothing had happened. Like, nothing had happened. And so I was hyperfixating on the fact that everyone had a weird name. I now can't really find most of those weird names, so I was obviously just quite angry. But there's a brother called Path, there's an aunt called No, there's someone else called something else. Yeah.
I'm making some mid-pod notes.
North.
Yeah.
North, Path, and No.
I'm going to circle back to Low and Misery.
Okay. That's fine.
It was a terrible name, I have to admit.
But yeah, I was hyperfixating on weird names because I was not engaged by the story. Put it that way. She was sort of your typical high society gal, but doesn't want to be that. She's got a little, like Alicia said, a little rebellious streak in her. She's a bit of a tomboy, but she presents herself as this, like, the belle of the ton. And I don't know, she kind of really spent her youth just making that her goal, to be the one that everybody proposed to. And I was a bit like, I don't get it. Because I don't get it. But she just wanted to be proposed to. She wanted everyone to want her, but she didn't actually want to marry anybody. She just, I don't know, she just wanted to be
Just to have that
Just,
achievement.
yeah, she just wanted to be up there.
Hot.
Yeah, she wanted to be hot. Okay, I can relate to that.
A hot girl season.
But yeah, and then but she was a little bit obsessed with it, like, oh, I need to get this guy to propose, and oh, I can get this guy to propose within a week, and oh, I've made him propose like in 4.5 minutes, and she was a little bit obsessed with it, and that put me off her a little bit. But I quite liked, what was our main guy's name? Jeremy. I actually quite liked Jeremy. I liked that he just gave zero fucks about what anybody else thought, like pretending to be drunk, lying down under the table just to escape conversations that he didn't want to be in. I was like, do you know what, Jeremy? I like you. I like the way you think.
And I did find that a bit funny, that he would just like, I did find that, like, obviously not laugh out loud funny, but I did find
amusing.
It funny.
He was the best part of the book, I think.
Yeah, I did quite like Jeremy. And also, like, with Alicia, it got better towards the end. So it started off dire and then slowly got okay. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. Put it that way.
Oh, I'm going to call that a bloody big win then, Sian.
I thought I was going to detest every single second, but it did get slightly better at the end when, things actually started happening. I didn't really... The bit with his cousin frustrated me, because his cousin's called him into this room and he's told him why he's there, and yet he doesn't call anyone else to come and witness the situation, and I was a bit like, why?
Oh, his manservant's there though, isn't he? Or covers for him at the end, but
yeah, but like when he's like, okay, shoot out the window, whatever it was, he doesn't call anyone to be there.
Shoot a gun out the window.
Yeah. I just found that whole scene a bit like, why have you not asked anyone to be there as your backup? Because there was no one there as his backup. So got slightly better. I didn't hate it as much as I thought I would. My favorite part of the book was Jeremy. I didn't really like her.
Zara, hit me with it.
Number one, I would have burnt the book if I hadn't been highly jet lagged. And
Paid for it.
The best part of the book was it did help me get to sleep. So I'm really grateful for that because I was really jet lagged. My second favorite part of the book is it's not that big.
The font's really big.
And the font's massive. And
and I love, I love a big font. 363 pages. It's not massive font. It's not massive font. Like, this isn't, stuff for kids.
I don't know.
I do feel like it could have been maybe 2 pages and I think it could have been went to billiards room, said no to Duke, got it on with Jeremy, the end. My third favourite part of the Duke book was the end. Because I think it literally says... I thought it said end. And I was like, nailed it. I am also being a bit funny. Just to wind Sarah up. She wound me up about brag.
Brag wasn't your choice, buddy.
Here are my thoughts. She was the most vapid, empty human being I've ever come across in a book. And I was really angry about it because she actually has a really interesting backstory. And she actually has a really interesting, history. So, the mum, there's a whole thing about the mum who, abandoned them. And then she's got this really cool aunt who I really quite liked, and I thought she reminded me a little bit of that chick in Bridgerton. She's the one that always has the first ball. Anyway, the one she's edgy. She's really good friends with the Queen, and she kind of she's navigating everybody without really anyone realizing it.
And no, in this book. No.
So she reminded me of her a little bit, and I was like, so the anger came from, why would you then write Betsy Boadicea, whatever her name is, don't care, into this incredibly vapid, empty human being when actually she's got a really interesting set of like she could have been something else. Like she could have had a lot more to her that like you would want to connect to. But to Sian's point, she went to a boarding school. P.S. She fucking asked to go there. She got a little bit like bullied by pardon?
Clementine.
So she gets a bit bullied by this chick, and then she dedicates her entire life to like one-upping the ton and being. It's like it's Gossip Girl-esque. It's like what like, but have something more to you. Like you're in Regency era, dude. The costumes are excellent. Have a bit more character. I really like Jeremy. I actually think he had something to him. Like to Sian's point, he didn't really care. He was whatever. Like I liked him. He was decent whenever he was in it. Although I do feel a little bit like sometimes he got sucked into it. Thaddeus was like freaking like grey wallpaper. Like why? Why, guys?
Bless him. He didn't put up much of a fight, did he?
Then
Britches.
absolutely sweet FA happens. They go to a billiards room. They talk for about 400 pages. And then they randomly go to an inn, but it snows. So they get stuck in. Okay. And like, and then everything happened at once. Like, there's a big thing with the cousin, and then there's this like shooting thing, and then there's the copious amounts of sex, and then it's like the end. I was like,
I'm starting to realise that's just the end of a romance novel. It's like everything happens really quickly right at the end, and then the book finishes.
Yeah, in some, and I have, I have probably, and Alicia and obviously Sian, we've probably read a bit more now of like of
only the four. Yeah,
but I agree with you that the ones we've read definitely that is very, very true. But yeah, I think my two cents is I just felt like there could have been so much more with what was there to work with from a story point of view. And it just wasn't, and it was boring. And like, I honestly, I think I actually made a note at some point. I think they were in that billiards room for 100 pages.
Did you actually make a note?
I honestly feel like I
did. To be in one room.
Like literally that's what, not that they came in and out or like a few days went past and they just happened to be back in they went in there and then 88 pages later they're still there.
I know.
And they
Sarah.
So Sarah, what did you think?
I'm here to defend Say No to the Duke. This, for me, being the fourth book, and I think it's a super fluke that I chose it, and I chose it for a laugh, it actually taps into an area of literature that I really enjoy. So I found the imagery quite evocative, especially to do with the way and everyone's probably going to laugh at me here, the way the snow was described and the way, ambling down the street was described. Like, I enjoyed...
I don't remember any of that.
No, because we might read for different things.
Yeah.
And so I very much enjoyed that I was able to read it and get quite a vision in my head of the scene, but I also come at this from a point of I am a huge, in terms of Regency, I'm a huge period drama watcher, period reader. Even to do with music, like, I love classical music. So I come at it with like all of that stuff that I start like having it in my head, and I'm like, I can picture this. I'm enjoying this. I'm walking down the street. The snow's falling. They're touching. They stumble upon his dad. They go into a carriage, and things are tense in a carriage because it's always tense in a carriage. And they stumble upon an inn, and So for me, I think actually reading the descriptive language, which might not be what everyone's looking for in a book, I found myself very easily able, of all of the books we've read so far, to place myself within the book and in that sense, I found it a much easier read and much more enjoyable to sit down and read for longer periods of time. I like a bad guy. I like a guy who's troubled that someone's going to save. So I love Jeremy. Like, he's right up my street, you know. I was picturing, you know, Anthony from Bridgerton, and it was quite easy to think this is a good looking guy who's troubled. And I found I found the exploration of PTSD quite something in the book, as opposed to it just being very superficial. I was like, we're actually exploring this guy's come back, he's quite damaged. I mean, maybe it's played with in a silly way in terms of Gregoire. Don't like that character. You know, being like, I'm going to fire this gun and you can't marry her because you're going to react because of your time in the asylum, etc., etc. But I thought having someone who was, you know, a male that was emotionally troubled and was able to speak and open up about being emotionally troubled, I found that quite good. I thought it was quite honest, and I thought he was quite vulnerable. And we've talked a lot in these podcasts where we've reviewed books, especially Sian, you've mentioned, you know, loving the preamble and the build up and the slow burn, and not much happens, but that's okay because it's burning and it's burning slowly. And I think probably what I'm realizing that how that slow burn happens, you know, or the theme around what that slow burn happens, probably it's okay. It's different for each of us, or we have slightly common. And for me, this one, I was rooting for them. I liked them. I didn't dislike Betsy, actually. I thought she was kind of refreshing to the female characters we've read about already. I found her more refreshing than the other, and I found she had more substance than the other characters that we've read so far. I thought it was a bit funny. I thought she liked that she was trying to do something silly, and it took a long period of time. But I feel like all of these books are a little bit longer than they should be. And after coming off the last one, where I know, you know, people said like, well, what are you expecting from a romance novel? And I was like, a little bit more heat. I didn't feel like I needed it in this at all. Like, I wasn't looking for the sexual imagery. I was enjoying their relationship developing. And for me, the real sort of like crutch point was when they did, I mean, fine, they were having sex at the time, when they told each other they loved each other during that. I was like, that's like the crescendo for me in terms of, but I think that's just possibly, again, only 4 books in. No, but I think accepting that there's, you know, there's, we're getting different things out of different books. And for me, was hotter than the last, in the sort of like falling in love, her turning down, you know, being the well, not turning down, but declining being the Duchess, going for the bad, slightly troubled boy, wanting to save him a little bit. I've always loved a bit of a saver. And yeah, and then them, you know, obviously she's losing her virginity, you know, during that, and I really liked Aunt No, who's a bit like, I know what you're doing upstairs, you know. She was a bit like, you know, she's that why has it got a thumbs up?
She was thumbs up, was Aunt No.
You know, she's replacing the mother figure, but in quite a cool and kind of way. And, you know, I felt it quite, Betsy wasn't my favourite character. Jeremy was. Gregoire was a pain in the arse. I don't think we necessarily needed even the big reveal of him at the end being, you know, behind that. I think actually just, you didn't need that. There was definitely bits that I think actually you didn't necessarily need. You're filling pages here. But mostly, I really liked it. It played more to my general interest in reading.
Frustration with it all is that, like, there was ingredients there to make all the characters more interesting and more unique in their own ways. Like, she had such potential to be more of a rebel, more of a, like, you know, I've got this taint on me because of my mother, but I'm not going to let that define me, and I'm going to go and XYZ. And
See, I disagree with you on that. I think that was written quite well, actually. Her sort of acknowledgement of what her mother had done and her problems going forward with that. But we can disagree.
She didn't.
As I always say, we can disagree.
No,
I think that was addressed quite well.
No, I agree it was written in there, but then her character, her actual character, human character, had no traces of that in it, right? So like,
No, I think it did. I think the promiscuous kind of unable to settle down to just settle, just to settle for someone is because of her mum.
yeah,
And her
but
mum
she didn't.
obviously chose love and say sexual chemistry over, title and that. So, I could disagree.
But she doesn't. But that whole say no thing is a game to her. Like, that's a game. It's a one-upmanship game. It's a I'm gonna fucking show you that I'm better
Probably
than
because
you.
of what her mum did. Yeah.
Yeah, I know, but I feel like there was no humility in her that linked back to the fact that she does have challenges around her, right? Like, and she, fair play, like she's done to get that many suitors and whatnot. She's actually done really well, right? Because she is tainted by what her mother did and the fact that, there's that whole scandal, whatever. But that just didn't play out. It just wasn't there. She was so mean girly, like, just, I don't know, there was something about what's her face from Mean Girls in there, like, and then because of that, then you don't really want the best for her. And I did for Jeremy. I feel like he was written in quite a lovely way, and in a way where you're like, you are flawed and you've definitely got issues, but
I want you to win.
Yeah, I want you to win. I want you to find happiness and all of that stuff. I just feel like, I think my biggest gripe with this book is, and if I take it back to, and I love period drama, and I love the classics, and I love all, like, especially the dark classics, so The Test of the D'Urbervilles and Wuthering Heights and all of that. I like that stuff. But those characters, and again, we're not comparing, but they had like a depth to them that drew on the backstory. And in this, I was like, why have you told us? Why have you even referenced all the stuff about the mother and the father and stuff? Like, it doesn't play a single role in then how she has developed as a human. She's just
I'll disagree with you on that. I think that she is the way she is because of her mother's promiscuity and going away. I think she's thinks she should be that kind of way because that was her mum. That's in her DNA. She talks a lot about that's part of who she is that her. So, but I just, again, we possibly can have different takes on it. But I think that is why she is the way she is because of what her mother did.
Yeah, but also in the end, but what is frustrating, if she was that bothered about her mum and her promiscuity, to then have sex with a guy, and spoiler alert, but then to then go through that and throw that all to the wind, you think
it's going to be
if you were that so bothered about it, is this because you think this is the love of your life? And I think that's where Eloisa James is trying to get to.
And that
I'm
was
like,
gonna
but
be
so bothered about it.
That was
now you're not bothered.
my exact point, Alicia, which is this is probably the only book in the romance whatever where I actually didn't want them to have sex because that was such a big plot around the mum and she ran off with the Prussian, and also like she's not promiscuous, she fell in love with someone and she ran off with them, like good for her, enjoy yourself, love. But like I actually didn't want them to have sex because I felt like that was actually a complete cop-out of the whole book, which is she had all this fear that she was going to end up like her mother. She ended up like her mother. Like,
she didn't end up like her mother.
She did. She had sex. Like, he could have walked away.
Her mother, to be clear, anyone listening, her mother left the husband after having all of the kids and ran off with the Prussian. Not just had sex before marriage.
She had to. She fell in love with the Prussian, and the only way she could be with him was to run away.
That is absolutely not the same as what happened.
More around the tabooness of what was happening at the time. Yeah. So to do that is probably not dissimilar to her mum running off with the Prussian, because she couldn't have sex before marriage at that time. Correct me if I'm wrong.
Can I say one thing about the actual sex scene?
Yeah.
I call BS. She lost her virginity. Didn't hurt. Didn't hurt.
Yeah,
also, she went from not daring for someone to see her ankle and was it the panniers on her skirt, and she always had to hold them down, to suddenly just being okay, completely, butt naked in front of this guy for the first time ever, and like had no qualms about it whatsoever. And her first time didn't hurt. It's the first time didn't hurt that got me. I'm sorry.
Well, you've read enough to know that the first time ones normally hurt.
Okay. It is time for Scores on the Doors. I feel like we need theme music for that. I'm going to make some theme music. I am going to start with, and we might go in the same order that we went on review.
I'm going to give it a 2.5 stars. So because it was horrendous to begin with, got better towards the end. I didn't hate it. Like I said, it was like a holiday rom-com that I'd sit through, but I wouldn't go to the cinema and watch it. I finished the book, and I finished the book, and I liked. I think the saving grace was Jeremy. I do think that had it not been for him, and I liked the playful relationship between them. I thought that was cute. He pulled in the extra half a star, but that would be my not dying to read the next one by her, but I'm not burning the book. The end.
2.5 from Alicia. That's a lot of stars. Well done. But well done for finishing it.
Got there.
Sean, hit us up.
I think I'm going to surprise you. Giving it 2. To be fair, Sarah, when I started it, I thought I was giving it 1. So 2, that's doubled my initial thought score.
You know what, that's really good, Sean. Thank you.
It did get better. My expectations, my bar was low, but it earned the second star from me as towards the end. So 2 out of 5.
Good.
Yeah,
that's good.
Z?
I was going to give it absolutely sweet all stars, literally donuts. And I have written a strongly worded letter to Miss Eloisa James with some real pointy thoughts on this one. However, upon reflection, and I really looked inward, I'm gonna give it half a star because actually I'd recommend it for jet lag, guys. Like,
and for sleeping,
or maybe if you've got insomnia. I would recommend it, and that half a star also goes to Jeremy because he was basically keeping me engaged. And yeah, I probably safely say I'm probably never going to read another Eloisa James, and if Sarah picks one, I'm going to leave book club. Okay, thank you. Sarah.
Sarah looking mightily impressed with the rest of book club.
It's a 4 for me. It's a 4. I've enjoyed it way more than the others. Accidentally enjoyed it way more than the others. I liked her writing. I liked most of the characters. I liked the imagery. I thought she wrote very well. I liked the plot, and I cared that they got together. And what was really nice for me, I think, in all of this was to realize that I didn't need, in a romance book, some kind of real sexual plot. I didn't need that. And throughout the ones we've read previously, I've been going, this is what I'm looking for, this is what I'm looking for, because that's what it's supposed to be for me to actually enjoy this, because the books are really bad. And I read this and went, I don't actually need that because I'm actually enjoying the book. So
shall I do my score reveal, my prediction reveal?
Yes.
I was half a star off for Sarah and Alicia.
Okay, cool.
So I said Sarah 3.5, Zara 0.5. I got you. and Alicia 2. I was half a star off for you and Alicia, but I think that was a pretty good prediction.
Pretty good.
It's really good. We should do that every time, actually. Like someone do a prediction of like where it's going to.
Yeah, that was all right. Well, Say No to the Duke got us animated at 8 a.m. here and 10, 11 with you
11
guys.
11 p.m.
With you guys. So thank you for staying up late with me. And thanks everyone for listening as always. We do love your thoughts and opinions, and we are on the socials. So we are part2_book club on Instagram, and we're part2 book club on TikTok. And we love your opinions. We love your recommendations. Please be sure to like and follow us. We do obviously do the big group reviews, but we also do mini reviews on a regular occasion. So keep your eye out for that, because if you're looking for your next book, oftentimes there'll be a mini review popping up, and there's one coming up from Miss Alicia in the very near future. Just a reminder as well, Shani, do you want to remind everybody what our next book is?
Our very next book is Butcher and Blackbird by Bryn Weaver. It is a dark rom-com about 2 serial killers.
No.
And the reason I chose it is because I just wanted to do something that was completely different from what we've already read. Something that had a thriller element to try and rein Sarah's interest in. And something that wouldn't be particularly predictable in a way. So this, I've seen such great reviews about this. Like, it's mental, but it's funny, it's dark, it's gripping, is what I've read and heard from some other bookstagrammers as well. I've heard it can also be polarizing, so who knows where we'll all end up.
Well, thanks everyone for joining us. We will see you next time for the next podcast. Make sure to follow us on the socials. Goodbye, Sarah.
Oh, she's gone.
As her battery dies. Goodbye, Shani.
Bye.
Goodbye, Alicia.
Bye. Goodbye. Good morning. Good night.
And Mia is putting forward Hey Dougie and the balloon badge.
Better than Say No to the Duke.
I love that that's her favorite.
Bye, Mia. Bye,
Bye,
Zara.
guys. Love you.
Love you lots.
Read that next.